Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in. Today, we're going to dive into a truly profound shift in how we understand our place in the universe. For millennia, humanity's purpose was basically handed down to us, right? We had these preordained cosmic destinies and grand religious narratives telling us exactly why we were here. But today, in what sociologists are calling a post-secular America, those traditional anchors just don't have that universal grip anymore. We're actively moving from having a prepackaged destiny handed to us toward this empowered, self-constructed purpose in modern life. It's a massive transition, and we're going to break down exactly how to navigate it. Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll be moving through the loss of inherent purpose, the psychology behind how we find meaning, the philosophical tools we can use, finding wonder through science, and finally, how to build your own narrative. Section 1. The loss of inherent purpose. How we lost our prepackaged destiny. If you've ever stared at the ceiling at 2 a.m. wondering what the point of it all is, well, you're definitely not alone. But to understand why we feel that way, we have to look back at how centuries of intellectual evolution gradually chipped away at the comforting architecture of divinely ordained cosmologies. Back in the 17th century, the Enlightenment, led by thinkers like Descartes, really shifted the focus entirely to human reason and autonomy. Then, the 18th century scientific revolution brought us Newton's clockwork universe. It was this brilliant, predictable mechanism, but ultimately, a vast, completely indifferent cosmos. By the 19th century, Darwin's theory of evolution showed that life itself was a blind, unguided process, which essentially removed humanity from the center of a special creation. And finally, the 20th century gave us the rise of existentialism, which directly questioned if there was any predetermined meaning at all. So this wasn't just an overnight shift. It was a slow, centuries-long unraveling of the idea that the universe somehow owes us a grand plan. So the absolute crux of it all is that we're experiencing a fundamental transition. We're moving away from inherited purpose, which is that meaning handed down to us by a divine plan or some cosmic destiny, and we're moving into the era of constructed purpose. This new reality relies entirely on our own personal agency, our psychological resilience, and our continuous active effort to make meaning for ourselves in a post-secular world. Essentially, no one is handing you a script anymore. You literally have to write it yourself. And honestly, perhaps no one summed this up better than the existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. He famously declared, "Existence precedes essence." What he meant by that is we are simply born into this world first. We just exist, without any predetermined nature, essence, or divine blueprint waiting for us. And because of that, we are completely free and simultaneously entirely responsible for creating our own values and essence through our own actions. It's a terrifying thought, sure, but man, it's also incredibly liberating. Section 2. The psychology of meaning. What happens to our brains without a cosmic plan? Seriously, what does happen to our brains when that cosmic plan disappears? How does our fundamental psychological drive for meaning cope when those comforting illusions of a predetermined path are just stripped away? Because here's the thing, the human brain is literally a meaning-making machine. When you take away that overarching narrative that explains everything from birth to death, it doesn't just shrug it off, it reacts. Without a coherent narrative to cling to, we often experience what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. You've probably felt this. It's that intense psychological discomfort that happens when your current empirical understanding of the world, like all that science and history we just talked about, violently clashes with the belief frameworks you might have inherited or grown up with. It leaves us in this state of mental fragmentation. And human beings absolutely cannot stand that kind of mental friction. We instinctively try to fix it. To naturally dial down that psychological discomfort, our brains lean on a few different strategies. First up is selective exposure, where we just naturally gravitate toward information that reinforces what we already want to believe and kind of just ignore the rest. Second is belief system modification. This is a much more conscious, active effort to adopt new, coherent frameworks, things like secular humanism or Stoicism, that actually align with our modern understanding of the world. And third is compartmentalization, where people keep their traditional religious beliefs in one mental box and their secular scientific views in another completely separate box, never letting them touch, just to avoid the conflict altogether. But we don't just have to cope with existential anxiety, we can actively combat it. The brilliant psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl observed that our primary drive in life isn't pleasure or power, but rather the will to meaning. And he gave us 3 actionable steps to actually find it. Step 1, creating a work or doing a deed. That means contributing something tangible to the world.
Step 2, experiencing something or encountering someone, particularly through profound love and connection. And step 3, which is perhaps the most powerful of all, choosing our attitude toward unavoidable suffering. Frankl taught us that even when literally all external freedoms are stripped away, we still retain the ultimate freedom to choose exactly how we respond to our circumstances.
Section 3. Philosophical Tools for Life. Building a new framework for existence. All right, since we are now the architects of our own lives, we need some solid tools to build with. Let's look at a menu of philosophical strategies we can actually adopt. We have secular humanism, which focuses on reason and human dignity to cultivate societal well-being. There's existentialism, demanding radical authenticity to create your own values. Stoicism, which we're going to dive into in a second, aims for inner tranquility. Pragmatism focuses entirely on practical consequences and taking effective action in the real world. And then you have Eastern philosophies, like Buddhism and Taoism, focusing on harmony with the natural order, mindfulness, and compassion. The big takeaway here? Losing religious dogma absolutely does not mean losing moral or practical guidance. You've got a massive philosophical tool belt right at your disposal. Let's zoom in on one specific, incredibly powerful tool, the Stoic dichotomy of control. This is essentially the practice of strictly differentiating between what is actually within your power, like your thoughts, your judgments, and your actions, and what is completely external, like world events, the weather, or other people's opinions. By leaning on this framework, you empower yourself to build massive psychological resilience. You basically stop wasting your energy screaming at an indifferent universe, and you focus all of that energy entirely on your own virtuous actions. It's a total game changer. Section 4. Finding wonder through science, the engine of curiosity and awe. Now, while science might have dismantled our old creation myths, it actually replaced them with a spectacular new engine for meaning through the sheer awe of discovery. Just look at cosmology. Understanding the absolute vastness of the universe from the Big Bang all the way to the formation of galaxies inspires this incredible sense of humility and connection. Biology reveals these profound, elegant mechanisms of evolution that connect us to literally all living things. And neuroscience, it is actively unraveling the mechanics of our own consciousness, our memories, and our perception. By relentlessly pursuing truth in these fields, our innate human curiosity transforms the great unknown from a source of dread into this endless wellspring of wonder. And right at the heart of both science and philosophy is the what-if scenario. I absolutely love this concept. Asking, what if we harness fusion power, or what if determinism is true, isn't just idle daydreaming. It's a highly powerful mechanism for intellectual engagement. It's exactly how we design scientific experiments, and it's how we explore deep, complex philosophical implications. Actively engaging in what-if thinking pushes the boundaries of human knowledge and gives our daily lives incredible intellectual momentum. It reminds us that the future is wide open and just waiting to be explored. Section 5. Building your own narrative, writing your own story in an open universe. Okay, let's tie it all together. Psychologists emphasize that mental well-being in our modern age requires us to actively weave our own narrative identity. Because, as we established, no one is handing you a script anymore. You must become the author. Step 1 is simply to identify your core values and principles, what actually matters to you. Step 2 is to create a coherent life story, weaving your past experiences together with your future aspirations so that your life actually feels connected and purposeful. And step 3 is to embrace those hypothetical what-if scenarios we just talked about, to continuously illuminate new goals and adapt your path as you grow. But remember this, you don't write this story alone. While we might be navigating this vast, indifferent cosmos as individuals, our self-efficacy is deeply, deeply fueled by others. We derive massive meaning from deep love and intimacy with our partners, our family, and our friends. We find it by belonging to secular communities united by shared interests and values. And we build really profound purpose through altruism, by actively contributing to the well-being of the people around us. The universe itself might be cold, but human warmth is entirely within our control to create and share. We've covered a ton of ground today, moving from the erosion of our inherited destiny all the way to the psychological and philosophical tools that empower us today. The cosmos might be indifferent to our existence, and yeah, the traditional safety nets of inherent purpose may have dissolved, but you are now fully equipped with the ability to construct a life of deep meaning, driven by your own curiosity, resilience, and human connection. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. In a universe of infinite possibilities, what story will you choose to write?